Series we started last week called Bless. And if you were with us last week, we talked about, bless being an acronym. 5 ways that we can bless the people around us. And we said last week it was going to be begin with prayer. This week we're doing the L of bless, which is to listen to others. And so I thought it would be great to have my wife share about listening because she's better at it than I am, and it's not even close. So would you give a warm welcome to my co-pastor who's in this thing with me, Tilly Butler. Yeah.
AKA Satan's eye. If you have not seen my eye, don't come look at it later. Am I on?
Yeah, you're on.
Am I good? Yeah. All right, Eli, go ahead.
At the house of the door, they can listen to me. Like I do this all the time. And if I go out at the house of the door, Matthew has his toys, and then Matthew has all his toys.
Okay, but I have to yell at you guys.
Linda, listen.
Okay, what?
Like everything they do at this house, you can't trust everything at Grandma's house.
Okay,
Okay, then what?
then you're not listening to me.
Then you're not listening to me.
I asked you not to do something.
Linda, but listen to me. Look at, if we do something, if you get that bird thing off, you're gonna break it.
Okay, but I'm letting you know
But
that you cannot. No,
Lick it.
You're not listening to me.
Linda,
Listen to me now. Listen to me now.
Listen to me.
No, you're not listening. I said no cupcakes, and you try to get cupcakes, and you try to ask Grandma.
Linda,
Didn't you?
Linda, lick it. If we do something without this, if we get close, you can't even get them. You're gonna burn your butt.
What's gonna burn your butt? You and Kevin don't listen, so I have to give both of you guys pop-pows in your butt.
But Linda, Grandpa's gonna give you peppers in the butt.
No, he's not.
Yeah.
I have to. You don't want me to hit Kevin, or you don't want me to spank you?
No.
Why?
Because anybody wants to spank me.
Then I have to spank Kevin.
But he's my little butt box.
He's your little pop-ups, but he doesn't listen.
But Linda, honey, look at this. Right now, they can't do anything if we can't get everything out of the wall. If we're gonna break everything down.
I'm not breaking anything down. I'm just letting you know
Linda,
you cannot have cupcakes for dinner.
Linda, like this thing, I never belong to you. Anything, they can't get anything.
I'm done arguing with you.
I'm not arguing with you.
You need to listen to the things that I say because I'm the mom and I'm the adult.
Listen to me. All the time they get them this stink,
I'm done arguing with you.
Linda, I'm done arguing with you. Listen to me.
I love that clip. It's been around probably 11 years now, and in my house, if I say, Linda, listen, everybody listens because I'm serious, like listen. But that's just a cute clip of how nobody listens to anybody. But I want to ask you guys a couple questions. I need you to volunteer with it. Raise your hand if you're a good listener. Oh, Elijah, are you serious? Okay. Raise your hand if you're not a good listener. Okay, raise your hand if you ever had the thought, I really wish I was a good listener. Okay. Raise your hand if you're not listening to me right now. Honor. Good job, Honor. It's so important to be a good listener. It really is. And I have to tell my husband a minute because when he asked me to, and it's going up Trinity, when he asked me if I would do this message, I said, sure, because he's really not a good listener. Like, I love him. He's great at so many things, but listening is not one of them. So when he asked me, in my head, I thought, I'm going to count between now and when I speak today how many times I say to him, are you listening? So last night I told him I was doing this, and last night he was at 22 when I said that. But after that conversation went up to 25. 25 times I've said to him in 1 week, are you listening to me? And it is so important to listen. And some people are born with that good gift. I don't want to sound braggy, but I think I'm a really good listener. I think it's funny at times my kids will come and talk to me because he doesn't listen. And it hurts when you're not being heard, or you have something important you want to say, so you go to somebody who's going to actually listen to you. But if you are one that is not a good listener, if you are one that's like, oh, I really would like to be a good listener, but I don't know how to do that. Like, for instance, my husband should be sitting down listening to this and taking notes, but he's occupied doing something else. So, and there he goes. So he's not a good listener. I have tools for you today. So this message is going to be a little different. You know, it's not going to be a come to Jesus moment. If it is, wow, great. God spoke to you, and that's amazing. But this is more of, I want to put some tools in your hands. I want to put some examples in your hands of how to become a good listener, how to start training yourself to become a good listener. I thought it was really cool this morning. I have this Time Hop thing. If you're not familiar with Time Hop, it's an app that shows you what's happened over the years. And it's really cool when you have kids and you're like, oh, look, that's when they were cute. They're no longer cute. Oh, I wish they could be babies again, but they're not. But 7 years ago today, I turned in my paper for life coaching. And as a coach, as a life coach, the number one thing is you have to be a good listener. So I just thought that was really cool in God's timing and how he worked that all out. But why is it so important to be a good listener? You know, we're talking in this message or this series about, in order to be a blessing, you have to, 1, pray. You know, John talked about that. We first do need to pray. 2 is listening. And in order to be a good listener and to bless somebody, you have to have the right tools. You have to know what that looks like. A good listener never interrupts. When you interrupt, when somebody's talking, really what you're saying is, yeah, what you have to say is not important. And when you interrupt, you're actually saying, I don't validate you. I don't validate what you're thinking. I don't see you. And that might seem a little like, oh, Tilly, that's a little harsh. It's true. I am throwing John under the bus a lot today. I told him up front, I'm doing this because he's a good example. Now, he has gotten better over the years at times. But for instance, he loves to interrupt. And if you guys have been our friends or have listened to any of our podcasts for quite some time, we don't have a podcast anymore, so don't go looking for it. But he's really good at it. And over the years, it has hurt my feelings. And it's gotten to the point now where when he interrupts, I'm done. And he'd be like, oh, I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm sorry. Tell me what you have to say. I'm like, no, because what I have to say now is not important. And that's how it makes me feel. And I've just, over the years, have learned to start doing that to other people too. Like, okay, what I have to say is not important. And we miss that. We miss it when we interrupt somebody. We miss it when we're not listening to people. So number one thing with being a good listener, don't interrupt. Let them finish saying what they have to say. When I was doing my life coaching training and teaching, they said Jesus was the number one life coach. And it's so true. If you go back and listen to any of the Gospels, Jesus stopped and he listened. And Jesus stopped and asked questions. He asked tons of questions. And sometimes when I'm reading the Gospels, I'm like, would he stop asking questions and just tell us what he really wants? That's me interrupting him. But when you ask people questions, it gets them thinking, it gets them going again. So today I'm going to look at Luke 18, and it's 35 through 43. I will read this, and if I fumble, it's because my eye's jacked, and it does get a little blurry, so just bear with me, okay? If you're wondering what happened to my eye, John interrupted me and caused... I'm just kidding. I have no idea what happened to my eye, but it's jacked. Okay, it says, as Jesus approached Jericho, a blind beggar was sitting beside the road. When he heard the noise of the crowd going past, he asked, what's happening? Then they told him that Jesus the Nazarene was going by. So he began to shout, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. Be quiet, the people yelled in front of him. But he only shouted louder, Son of David, have mercy on me. When Jesus heard him, he stopped and ordered the man he brought to him. As the man came near, Jesus asked, what do you want me to do for you? Lord, he said, I want to see. That's kind of funny. I want to see too. And Jesus said, all right, receive your sight. Your faith has healed you. Instantly, the man could see, and he followed Jesus, praising God. And all who saw it praised God too. Here's a little side note. Yesterday, when I was going over this with John, John talked about Zacchaeus, and I was like, hey, is this in the same time frame? Because, he was in Jericho, like we talked about it last week. He was in Jericho, and this is in Jericho. And at first, John's like, nah, I don't think so. And he's like, oh, no, wait a minute. This was right after, right? Is that what we discovered? Yeah. So I just think that's really cool that Jesus was headed to, fill me in? Jerusalem. But he stopped and he listened to people in Jericho. That wasn't on his plan. That wasn't on his agenda. But he stopped and he had lunch with Zacchaeus. He stopped and healed a blind man. And in this story, the blind man is, yelling, Linda, listen to me, Linda. And the disciples and the people in front of him are like, shut up. You're no good. You're not worth it. You're not worth Jesus' time to stop. But the blind man got even louder, Linda, hear me. And Jesus stopped and he listened to him. And I love that Jesus asked the question, what can I do for you? Jesus already knows what he can do. But because God or Jesus cared so much about him, he stopped and he listened and asked him the question, what can I do for you? And a little side note too, I love this story. When you guys were here and heard Bianca speak, I went and saw her in person, and she actually spoke on this. And she's like, what do you want from God? What do you want to ask Jesus? And we never think of that. We really don't. Okay, Jesus knows all, he hears all, he sees all, so why do I need to tell him what I want? But he wants to know. He wants to know your heart. He wants to hear you. And that night, I didn't realize that I wanted to speak in church. And I found myself asking God, because at the time we were not going to do a Sunday gathering. And I asked Jesus, how am I supposed to speak if we're not doing Sunday gathering? So because of this story, we now have Sunday morning. So just a little side note in how cool Jesus really is. But I love this story, though, because Jesus is very busy. He's trying to get to one place. How many times do we have our own agenda and want to get from point A to point B, and we don't allow anything to come in? We don't take the time to stop and listen to anybody who's along our path. But Jesus is showing us how important it is that we need to stop and ask Jesus for starters and pray, God, who am I supposed to stop and listen to? And then 2, okay, God, I'm stopping and I'm listening. What do I do? And the really cool thing about all of this is when we invite the Holy Spirit, when we invite Jesus, when we invite God into this situation, talking to our neighbor, talking to a coworker, when we say, God, what do you want me to do? All we have to do is back off then. Because God will use your mouth, God will use your heart, and God will use your ears to listen to what people have. And that's the really cool thing. A lot of times we're like, oh, I can't talk to my neighbor. Oh, I can't talk to my coworker. Oh, I can't really talk to my child. I can't talk to my husband because I don't know what to say. The good thing is you don't have to. You just have to say, yes, I will listen, and the Holy Spirit will lead and guide you through all that. The other day, I thought it was really funny. Benjamin, who's over in the kids' church, he is, I know how old he is. He's 12, right? 12? Yeah. We got so many of them, I can't keep in track. But he was in a creative writing class, which he absolutely hates it with a passion. If you talk to my son, he has many words, but they don't always, you're like, wait, what? So creative writing is not his strong suit at all. So I was like, buddy, when you have this class, bring home your assignment and we'll talk through it, we'll work through it, I'll help you with it. So he sits up at the island and he's like, okay, the question is, am I a good listener? And I was like, I don't know, are you? Do you think you are? He goes, well, if I like what the person's talking about, I'm like, fair enough. And then the second question was, what makes a good listener? And so he's like, I don't really know that answer. Can you help me? I'm like, sure. So I was like, buddy, to be a good listener, you have to stop and you have to hear what the person's saying. You don't stop and hear, but think about what you're going to say or what you're going to reply. You are just focused truly in on that person, what they have to say. And he's like, okay, so wait, what do I write? I'm like, so apparently you're not a good listener. But I thought that's funny because that's us a lot of times. A lot of times when people are talking to us, we're waiting and for them to finish so we can say what we have to say. And that's not being a good listener because you just totally missed what they said. Through this, like I said, I want to give you, so this is going to be a short one, so everybody's like, yay, lunch early. I do want to give you guys tools and how to work with these tools, but I also want to encourage you guys, go back and read the Gospels. Like start in the Gospels and pay attention to Jesus and the questions he asks and how he stops and he listens. And it does make you go, oh, I miss a lot of opportunities because I'm too busy about my agenda, or oh, that person really talks a lot and I don't really want to talk to them. And I'm honest, we're all like that. There are some people who you're like, wow, that was a lot. My husband's really good at checking out when people talk a lot. Hence why I'm always like, are you listening to me? But if we stay focused on the person as they're talking, if we take these tools, we can change lives. We can help God move in their lives. So I just want to give you guys tools on how to be a good listener and what that looks like. And again, prayer is the most important thing. If you just get up in the morning as you are brushing your teeth, as you're putting your makeup on, as you're doing your daily routine, start asking God, who do you want me to listen to today? Who am I supposed to approach with these questions that I'll give you guys? And just see what God does. You know, a lot of times we're like, oh, I'm struggling in this area, or I don't know how to fix this, and I don't know how to fix that, and I don't feel God, I don't see God moving. What am I doing wrong? And I always say, and I'm guilty of it, because then I do this too. Okay, I need to take focus off of me and put it on somebody else. And when we do that, you can definitely feel a shift in what God's doing in you. And so if we start our day off with, God, who do you want me to speak to today? Is it that coworker that talks an awful lot, that has issues, that maybe smells a little bit? Or is it my neighbor? You know, should I go over and knock on the door and ask God, who can I bless today? How can I be a blessing? And so with that, I keep saying there's questions you can ask. And when you guys were in elementary school or middle, I even asked Honor this week because I was like, is there a name for these? Because I couldn't remember, and I don't think we came up with a name, did we? No. It's the 5 W's. And they're going to be on the screen, and then also at the end, I do have a card for you guys, because if you're a lot like me, you're like, oh, this is all great, this is wonderful, and then come Monday, it's like, wait, what was I supposed to do again? I was listening, but I don't remember. So I print up little cards for you guys to take with you. So the 5 W's, when you are listening to somebody, it helps you to, one, listen. It helps you to ask the right question to see how we can help solve their problems. You know, a lot of times we talk to people and they're like, oh yeah, I'm going through this. And there's times where we're like, oh, I wish I could help them. I don't know how to help them. What can I do to help them? Okay, 1, pray. And then 2, when you ask questions after they answer a question, it gets you to the end goal of kind of solving that problem. And you, trust me, you will have a moment of, ooh, maybe I could be a life coach, or maybe I could, you know, you get excited because you help this person work it out. The 5 W's are the who, what, when, where, why, and then the 1 H is how. So if you start talking in your conversation and asking, you know, oh, well, what happened there? And then you let them talk. You let them talk. And you listen to them, which then you can go from, oh, well, where was that? And how did that happen? You know, you just keep engaging in that conversation. And what you are actually doing is you're validating that person. You are actually seeing that person. You are actually moving that person in a way that only God, in a way that only you as a listener can do. I had a mentor growing up, and she was a good bit older than me. But every time I met with her, I walked away feeling like I was $1 million, like I was somebody important. And then I got to the point where I'm like, okay, wait, we always talk about me when she's talking to me. So I'd always be like, okay, this time when we sit down and we have coffee and we have conversation, I'm going to ask about her. Like, I'm going to turn this on to her. And you know what? Still to this day, I can't ever flip the conversation. And I used to always be like, I wish I could be like her in conversations. I wish I could make everybody feel like $1 million. And actually, this lady is on our board at church because she's just that awesome. But when I started doing my life coaching training and they're teaching you this, I was like, oh, that's how she does it. So now I feel like when we are together, we're fighting against each other, like asking the questions to see who can talk about who. But it's a beautiful thing, because when a person finally sees that somebody's listening to them, it can make them feel amazing. I mean, ask yourself, how many times when you're going through something, I wish somebody would just listen to me. I wish somebody could feel what I'm feeling. And when you are in a conversation with somebody and you're trying to share your heart and they're not listening and they go off to somebody else, or they go off talking about themselves, and you never get to really share your heart, it hurts. It really hurts, and that makes me sad for people that are going through things. I mean, I know I've done it, and I don't mean to do it, but it just shows how important it is to be a good listener. And really, when it comes down to it, it just shows them how Jesus loves them. Because Jesus would take the time, and he would sit and listen to you, and would not interrupt. And he would just love on you. The other thing, too, with listening is when somebody is going through something, don't give your advice. Don't really share your story. Just let them talk. The thing we've shared before how we've lost a baby, and during that time, people sucked. I'm just going to be honest. People would say the stupidest things to you, and during that time, all I wanted was somebody just to sit and cry with me. All I wanted was somebody to really honestly say, man, that sucks. Because it does. It just sucks. And if somebody would have said, Tilly, I'm sorry, and that sucks, that would have meant the world to me. So know your situation that you're in. Listen to that person. And it is okay just to say, I'm sorry. We don't have to have the answer. We don't have to fix them. We don't have to make it better. We can just say, it sucks. I'm sorry. And that would mean the world. So the W's are kind of deep. The W's, when you ask the W questions, they do go down a good problem solving. They go down a good, oh, this person is really struggling. How can I help them? And if you're like, ooh, that is too deep, too fast, I'm never going to be a good listener because I don't want to know all that, I still got you. There's the H's, the 4 H's. And these H's are really good just to build a relationship with. Are good to go to your neighbor that you never talk to and just start asking these questions and listening to them. And when you do listen, you get to hear, oh, maybe a shovel broke and they need a shovel. I can help with that. The simple questions can help you see a simple solution to things. So the 4 H's are history. So you can just go up to somebody and say, hey, Tony, tell me your story. You don't want to know. So then I would go, well, hey, what's your favorite team? Which goes to the heart. So, you will have answers like that, like, oh, we ain't got time for this, honey, and it's time to move on. And so that question is stopped. But then you can go to, the heart. What's your favorite team? Michael, I know his favorite team's the Steelers. You know how I know that? Because I'm a Steelers fan. Sorry, y'all, a Ravens fan. Although, dude, we might be screwed this year. Merry Christmas to all of us. Okay, sorry, that was a sidetrack. Now you know my heart. My hearts are the Steelers. But yeah, hey, are you going on vacation? What is something fun you like to do? So these are the simple questions that start a conversation so then you can listen and know. I know Michael likes the Steelers. You know how I know that? Because I've listened to him before. Actually, he's probably listened to me gripe a little bit more. But I also know his heart is Olivia. And I know Olivia's heart is Michael. How do I know that? Because I've stopped and listened to them a lot. And I love them dearly. But that's how you listen, is asking those simple questions, what makes you smile? That is my favorite question. I love to ask people, what makes you smile? And get ready to listen, because when you ask that question, people start to smile and they're like, ooh, this makes me smile. My husband makes me smile. My children make me smile. And then they just go and take off. And now you're knowing about them. Now you're hearing their heart and what their heart looks like, and you're building that relationship. The other question is hobby. What do you like to do in your free time? Some people know, for me, if somebody asks me what I like to do in my free time, I love to go for walks. I love to go on the canal and walk and not listen to anybody but a podcast. So it's just those simple questions that you just need to start asking and doing. And then from there, if Tony had said, oh, honey, you don't want to know? I would probably be like, hey, yeah, you know what, I really do. Why don't you share more of your story? And so this is really cool about the H's is then you can go back up to the W's, because she just said, honey, you don't want to know. Why? Why don't I want to know? What is it? How can I be praying for you? Yeah. All right, you ready now? But see, it opens up, and then I'm going to get to know Tony, and I'm going to listen, and I'm going to hear her heart, her story, and what she's going through. And so if I sit and listen, then you know what else? Now I know how to pray for her. And if she doesn't fully open up to me yet, My prayer can turn into, dear God, whatever is heavy on her heart, help lead her, help guide her. Dear God, Tony has a heavy heart. How can I help speak Jesus into her? How can I be Jesus to her? And the only way I got there is because I listened to her. And in that short amount of time, we all know that Tony's got a story to tell because we all stopped and we listened. We wouldn't know that if I just start talking to her all about the Steelers and talking to her about my Jeep and talking to her about my kids and talking to her about my husband who drives me insane because he doesn't listen to me. Okay, well then we are going good. I know, right? Let's go get coffee and let's go. But yeah, we make light of this because it can be fun, it can be exciting. But seriously, now I know I want to spend time with her because I want to know what's going on with her. I want to be a good listener. I know all of her friends are like, no, you don't, honey. You ain't got time for that. They're probably all like, your eyes red on one side, it's going to go on the other side now. No, it's all fun. Look, now I got these ladies going. So yeah, these are some questions that you can use in how to be a good listener. You know, we don't think about it. We really don't take time to be like, oh, how can I be a good listener? But I would say the number one thing is always ask God. God is there to help us. God is there to lead us and guide us. And if we do that and we get into a situation where we're like, oh, that got deep real fast and I don't know what to do. Well, it's good because now I ask God to help me in this situation from the beginning. And now God can just be like, hey, just pray for her. Because you're not there to fix her, I am. And I can lead her into a prayer that would lead her to Jesus, to ask him for help. Again, if you guys sit and read the Gospels, Jesus is the best listener. Of course he is, because he's Jesus. But he leads by examples. You know, all his stories he goes through, and he always asks questions. He's always asking, well, who do you say I am? And you know what? When they replied to that, he shut that down real quick because he asked the right question. It does come down to asking the right questions and just be present. Don't interrupt. And just open your ears. It takes time. You know, some people, like I said in the beginning, are born a good listener. God, I would say, gifted me with being a good listener and also cursed me with being a good listener. But it takes time. You know, I will say over the years, my husband has gotten better at being a good listener. And I have learned that if I want him to listen to me, I need to say, hey, you listening to me? Or I need to say, hey, focus on me. I'm talking to you right now. Because he will a lot of times be like, oh, I thought you were talking to her. And I'm like, no, we're all talking together. We're in the same room together. So just take time and practice. Try using some of these today if you're going out to lunch and having a conversation with people. One thing that our family does, and I put this on the back, if the W's and the H's are like way out of your league and you're like, I will never be a good listener, I am not asking these questions, they are too hard, I don't want to know all this stuff, here is a really simple way. Today, if you're going out to lunch with your family, or tonight if you're having dinner, we do this a lot with our family when we sit down for dinner. We start and ask everybody these questions. Actually, Brooke, while I ask these questions, you want to hand out the cards. These questions are on the back, and these are your easy ones. And they help you to be a good listener to know what's the next question. So we start off by saying, hey, what's the best part about your day? Instead of, how was your day? Because most people were like, oh, good, fine, okay. Ask, what was the best part about your day? If you're like Benjamin, his answer 99% of the time was coming home from school. Well, no, there was one more. So that's what I'm saying. You can always ask more questions, but hear their answers so you can ask the following question. Then the next one is, what was the worst part about your day? Be prepared, because sometimes they have some answers for that. But now you know what was good and what was bad about their day. Then like I said, my favorite question is, what made you smile? And sometimes they answer with questions, oh, look, she's smiling. I made her smile. Sometimes these answers are like, oh, I should have been there because I don't get what you were talking about. But again, you can ask more questions like, oh, what led up to that? Anyways, what did you learn? This one is my absolute favorite one. What are you thankful for? Which then can lead to who are you thankful for? Why are you thankful for? And then what are you excited about? You know, you can find out from people, oh, they have a concert coming up. That sounds exciting. Or, yeah, Trini's shaking her head yes, because they're taking me to a concert. But finding out what people are excited for, which you might find out, oh, my birthday. And then you're like, oh, I heard that. And let me bless them and buy them a little gift card to someplace. Or, you know what I mean? Like when you ask these questions, you get answers. You get to know the person better. You get to hear the person. You get to hear their heart. And you can always go deeper with these questions. Again, I know this one isn't a come to Jesus moment or, oh, Jesus set me free from this today. But sometimes we do need to stop and learn how to be more like Jesus, how to grow more like Jesus. And Jesus was a very good listener, still is a good listener. And with this series, first you pray, always pray. I think John and I, for now until the church closes, we will always say pray. Prayer is so important. Praying and listening to God. A lot of times when we pray and we say, God, can you do, sometimes he just wants you to sit and listen. And sometimes it's just silent and to be still. So always pray first. Start your Monday morning prayer with, God, who can I speak to today? To then, God, close my mouth and open my ears so I can hear people. I'm going to have you guys go ahead and stand. Like John always says, I hope this was helpful. If not, I'm sorry I wasted a half hour of your time. But try doing these. If you have questions about this, please ask. This is my heart. I love sitting and listening to people. That's what makes me smile, is I love hearing people's story. I love to hear what God's done in their life, what God is doing in their life. I love when people ask me to pray because now I'm a part of their life and I get to see God move. When people say, hey, can you pray for this situation? Can you pray for my friend? And it brings me joy that now I get to be a part of your journey. And being a good listener makes you a part of people's journey. So I'm just going to pray, and if you have anything you want to... You don't. He's being a good listener. All right, dear Heavenly Father, I thank you for this time. God, I hope this was helpful. I hope I did you proud in how to listen and how to listen the way you listen. God, I just pray from this day forward that we can learn to be a good listener. God, that we can just sit in your presence, hear your voice, listen to what you have to say. And God, I pray for God stories out of this day. I said we didn't have a come to Jesus moment, but maybe this moment is how to have come to Jesus moments. God, I pray that a testimony will come out of today of, hey, I sat and I listened and I asked these questions, and here's what happened. Here's how God moved. So God, I just pray for each person today that they can just take one thing and go forth on Monday and how to be a good listener. God, show them that you have plans for each and every person here. Show them that if they just stop and listen to you, you have things to speak to them. God, I just pray for this week. I pray that we have a God moment and that we can just share your testimony in it. God, I pray blessings over everybody. I pray blessings over each question that gets asked this week. God, we love you and we praise you. In your name, amen. Okay, don't forget to grab little packets to hand out. don't put Jesus in a box. Invite people to come be a part of this. We want to meet your friends, and we want to be Jesus to them. So invite somebody new for next week. Hope you guys have a great week, and we will see you next week.